Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Donna Lynn Hilton, producer for Goodspeed Musicals, and welcome to my home office. Thank you for being here. Before we get going tonight, let me remind you that if you have questions for me or for our guests, you can enter them in the comment section on the right side of your screen in the chat section, or you can text them to 860-638-7157. That number will go across your screen occasionally during our conversation, and you can text your questions and get them to us, and we'll try to get them answered. So as those of you who have been regularly tuning into this event know, and many of you have been regularly tuning in, and we really appreciate that, one of the best parts of my job and the job of Michael Fling and Annika Chapin, my artistic associates, is that we get to create and maintain relationships with a lot of artists who come into our frame of view and keep a track of their work. And so we spend a lot of time normally having coffees or taking people to lunch or on the phone. And lately we do a lot of Zoom conversations. And we decided that it would be fun and interesting to bring our New Works audience into those conversations. So that's what we're doing here tonight. So thank you for joining us. My guest today was with us for the 2020 Mercer Colony, working on his musical Sean's Story Part 2, The Reckoning, which is the second in a two-part series, which follows a young Black man as he experiences love and loss for the first time. Khiyon Hursey is a recipient of multiple songwriting awards, including an ASCAP Scholarship and the 2019 Musical Theatre Workshop with Stephen Schwartz, a Johnny Mercer Songwriters Project residency, a Rhinebeck Writers Retreat residency, and Khiyon is the recipient of the 2020 Stephen Schwartz Award, which is a very impressive credential. He got his start as a music assistant on the off-Broadway and Broadway productions and the Grammy Award-winning cast album of Hamilton. So there's another feather in his cap. Please welcome Khiyon Hursey.
Applause. Hi, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good right now. How are you, Donna Lynn?
I'm good. You know, this whole everything that's going on in the world can be exhausting, as we spoke about briefly earlier today. But you know, we have to keep on and get the work done, and hopefully get the world back where it needs to be soon. Get the world where it needs to be soon. So I'm doing all right. Yeah. Where are you, Khiyon? Are you in Los Angeles or New York?
So I'm in LA right now. I have been since I think March 12th. I left like the day after Broadway closed because I was in New York doing auditions for another show, and that production was canceled because of the COVID-19 crisis. But I've been here for the past 3 months, just, you know, hunkered down.
Yeah. Like all of us. So you were with us for the Colony this year. I believe that your nomination for the Colony came through Jonathan Brielle with the Mercer Foundation because he knew your work from the Mercer Songwriting Project at Northwestern, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And so I really wasn't exposed to your work until really that process, which is a tiny exposure, and then met you for the week you were with us at the Colony. And I was just really moved by the story that you were telling and by the sound of your show. So I really am glad to be able to share the story and the sound of the show with our audience tonight. So first thing, catch us up. What does our audience need to know about you that I didn't say in the introduction?
I feel like you covered it pretty well. I'm a musical theater composer, lyricist, book writer. You know, Sean's Story is a two-parter. The first part, as in like two separate musicals, really, of the same story. Part one is called The Awakening, in which Sean has an awakening to his own Blackness and the world around him. And then part two is The Reckoning, in terms of dealing with that awakening and the consequences of it.
How are the two stories, other than the plot differences, how are the two stories different? Does it, if I were to sit through performances of both of them, would it feel like a continuation, or are there dramatic differences between the two pieces?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much you want me to tell you about the plot. But it definitely, we leave on a massive cliffhanger at the end of part 1.
Okay.
And then we pick right up at the top of part 2.
And I should remember this from your time at the colony, but I
Yeah.
don't. Is it your intention that the pieces be presented together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think we're still trying to figure out if it's going to be one evening or like 2 evenings. And part 2 is 3 acts currently, which like we're doing a lot of interesting things structurally with this one. So it's TBD, you know.
Okay. So for example, when you say interesting things structurally, can you share an example for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenges of like doing a 2-part musical. I remember really starting part 2 at Goodspeed, or doing a massive rewrite of it and thinking, I don't think there have ever been any 2-part musicals. There have been 2-part plays, but musicals, not really. And I think it was exciting in terms of like, there are no rules. There's no like, I want song or setting up the world or like any of that. So it's kind of just like really figuring out what style you want to tell the story, what you really want to say without adhering to any of those structures, which I think has allowed me like a lot of flexibility in terms of like really playing with the idea of like, how much can an audience take without music in a musical? The balance of like scenes and songs, because I think like specifically the content that we're dealing with requires such it requires a lot of different things from the form of musical theater. So I think it's been really interesting to play around with that in terms of like having very long scenes, having very through composed songs, having songs that have no form, and just figuring out what story or figuring out how this story really wants to be told. So it's been really interesting and exciting.
And did you conceive it in 2 parts, or did the need for that occur to you as you were developing the story?
Yeah, I conceived it. It really started as part 2. I guess I should really tell everyone what it's about.
Probably we should probably
give us
tell them a little bit more about the show.
Yeah, I mean, so part 1 follows a sophomore in college. His name is Sean, and essentially we learn that he's grown up in a mostly white community, and the story is really about him learning about his own Black identity. And he starts to learn that once he meets this guy, Justin, who eventually becomes his boyfriend. And through the action of part 1, we kind of see them have different ideologies in terms of like how they own their own Blackness and what it means to be Black. And in the happening of part 1, we see certain instances of police brutality in which they have different ways of reacting to. And which all relates to like whose responsibility is it to fix our country, and like what are the right things to do to create change in our country. I think they come at it from a very different ideological places. And then at the end of part 1, his boyfriend gets killed by the police, and part 2 really picks up with, well, what happens now, and where is he in terms of like seeking justice, and how does his ideology change with that. There's also a love triangle in it, and like a lot of fun stuff, but very serious, and unfortunately very relevant to our time.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that you could be with us tonight.
Yeah,
clearly a subject that has had a different impact on your life than it has on mine, for example. We're fortunate to have you here to share this with us in this moment when I think so many of us are recognizing our complicity in the social injustice that exists in our country. And I really appreciate you sharing it with us. So let's set up the song we're going to hear, which I was humming before you came on.
Oh,
I was humming it.
awesome.
So just want you to know that. So set up the song and then we'll share it.
Yeah. So this song kind of takes place after an instance of police brutality has happened about 30 minutes away from the college where Sean and Justin are going to. And I think it's the death really hits Justin in a visceral way, and for some reason it hasn't hit Sean in a specific way. Again, it has a lot to do with how he perceives himself and his own Black identity. So this song is Justin singing to Sean that it could literally, be them who are as a victim of police brutality. And it's like it's mostly a solo, but there's a duet section at the end.
Okay. All right. Michael Fling, when you're ready, please. Thank you.
It could be us on the cold ground. It could be us with the same sound. It could be you or me. It could be you or me. It could be us in the spotlight. It could be us and it ain't right. It could be you or me. That could be you or me, yeah. I sit in lonely places and I think about the value of my life. Is it pennies or a quarter or a diamond? Worth nothing at all. It could be us and they won't care. It could be us and never play fair. It could be you or me. It could be you or me, oh. You can hear that nigga on the phone talking about, I just shot a man, I was being followed, he attacked me, I had to protect myself, I had to call out for help, I had to, man, that nigga wildin' for real. But the media disagree, they villainize Davion Carter's name. It feels like nobody gives one fuck, the case gets worse by the hour, and I'm trying my best to keep my cool. But what if that was you or even me? I can't get the fucking sound out of my head, now I don't wanna get out of my bed. It could be us on the cold ground. It could be us with the same sound. It could be you or me. That could be you or me. It could be us in the spotlight. It could be us and it ain't right. It could be you or me. That could be you or me, oh. I sit in lonely places and I think about the value of my life. Is it pennies or a quarter or a diamond? Worth nothing at all. It could be us. It could be us. It could be you. It could be me. It could be us. It could be us. It could be you. It could be me. Does anybody give a fuck?
No.
Does anyone actually care?
No.
How does everybody go about their day knowing someone died, knowing someone's dead, that it's all unfair? Do people turn off their feelings? Do people ignore? Do people not watch the news? People just want to see where this goes. People don't want to point fingers because they don't know all the facts. Don't hurry and jump the gun. What? Don't hurry and jump the gun. I wanna be strong. Wish I could pretend like I'm not affected. I'm trying to stay strong. Doing my best to stay calm and collected, but I'm not. I won't. I'm hurt. I'm angry. He's fearless. He doesn't hesitate. He's fearless. He doesn't hesitate. It could be you or me. It could be, it could be.
It's powerful. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It definitely it's so weird. It's so weird how this is so relevant now.
Mhm.
And I've been writing this show for like 5 years or so. Yeah, and it's interesting. I think it's obviously it took a long time to build this story and build it out in the way that it's manifested, but it's yeah, that song really, it rings different currently.
Yeah, it does, and powerful, and it's important that we let people hear this voice. So thank you for sharing it with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we speak frequently on this event about the Mercer Colony, because the colony has been such a valuable device for Goodspeed in terms of developing relationships with writers of many diverse voices, writers of many ethnicities and colors and gender diversities. And it's just been such a valuable tool to allow us to broaden the spectrum of people, writers that we're able to support. So I'm just interested to know what your experience being part of the colony was like.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a beautiful, needed experience. I just loved how diverse everyone was in terms of like age and like race and like identity, like people from the UK, and like it was just like I'd never really done a residency. Well, I've never done a residency with solely musical theater artists, but the projects were so wildly different, and everyone just had such a distinct voice and of just amazing projects. So it was so beautiful to be around all of those artists, and the salons were something that I was looking forward to every night. Yeah. And I think the colony was really important in terms of like my process as far as like really thinking about how I want to tell the story of part 2. Which is, I didn't mention this earlier, but I actually started with part 2, and then I wrote part 1, and now I'm kind of like rehauling part 2. But this was the first time that I'd gotten a chance to really look at part 2 and just have the time and space to do it. And I think, you know, the colony was so supportive, and it was just great to be in community with such incredible artists.
We were on the phone this afternoon with Nick Butcher, Tom Ling, and Joe White, and they said, please give you their very best.
I love them.
They felt the same way about being in the room with you. They did.
Yeah, they're so good.
That's all right. We said we wouldn't keep you long, so I think this is good. But thank you so much for checking in with us and sharing your song and sharing your story. And it just means the world to us that we were able to share you and your work with our audience tonight. So thank you, Khiyon, for joining us. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. If you love new work, we're here every Thursday night to share another incredible writer like Khiyon's work with you. New work is expensive and it is risky, and we clearly have not given up on that work while we are locked down due to this pandemic. So if you want to do more, please visit goodspeed.org and make a contribution so that we can continue to support the work of writers like Khiyon. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Stay well.